Comics and Picture Story Symposium. It's a weekly lecture series about text image work of all kinds. And when we have a special guest who happens to be coming through the city, we book these special events. I'm going to introduce Seth Tobocman, who will introduce our speaker tonight. Seth, if you don't know him, is a fixture in the alternative comics world. He's at the place where, where politics and comics meet. He's a long-time editor and book. Maybe, I don't know if you edit it yourself or it's...
we edit it collectively.
Yeah, collective. One of the editors and the founder of World War III Illustrated, a magazine that every year seems to be coming closer to being up to date. And that's it. And here's Seth. He'll introduce our speaker tonight.
Hi. Mohammad asked me to introduce his presentation. And I thought that one thing that I wasn't sure who was coming, who wasn't coming, but that generally American audiences don't know very much about Arab cartoonists. Here in the United States, in the comic book world, we're always talking about how in the 1950s there was an attempt to censor American comics. And I've literally been hearing that story every year for my entire adult life, so it must have been a really big deal. But there seems like in some place there's an attempt to censor comics and cartooning all the time. So I thought I'd go over that a little bit. This is Naji al-Ali, who is the most well-known Palestinian cartoonist. He grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, and his trademark is this little boy who's almost like his signature, who watches whatever scene goes on. And he said that that character represents his own childhood. And of course, he really details and describes the displacement of Palestinians by Zionist development of Israel and the resistance to that. And he was also very critical of the governments of other states in the Arab world, and he was critical of the leadership of the Palestine Liberation Organization. And because he was universally critical, nobody really knows who it was who was responsible for his assassination in 1989. That he was shot in London in 1989, nobody knows who did that. But he had made enough enemies with his cartooning that the finger could point in any number of directions. And he's not the only person who's had to deal with these sorts of issues. Suleiman Mansour has devoted his life to creating a fine arts community in Palestine, in the occupied territories, in Ramallah, and in East Jerusalem. And what he had to deal with was that up until the Oslo Agreement, any symbol of Palestinian nationalism was seen as illegal by the Israeli occupation. So it was, for instance, illegal to fly the Palestinian flag or to paint one in your artwork. And not only was that illegal, but anything that pointed in that direction was illegal. So that it would have been illegal, the joke was it was illegal to paint a watermelon, because a watermelon is red, white, black, and green. And so Suleiman had a number of art shows with a number of artists in Ramallah and in East Jerusalem, and they would be arrested and they would be taken into jail for showing their artwork. And eventually, Suleiman and the people he was working with, they were very influenced by ideas of non-objective painting that came out of fine arts in the United States at that time, and they developed a kind of school of artwork where as opposed to, say, using the flag, they would use local materials and objects that were in some way connected to national identity. Another artist of that same tendency is Taysir Barakat, and what he would do is he developed a technique for burning images into olive wood, because the olive tree is the symbol of Palestine. He did a number of pieces like this, and it was also very important to these artists to make their own materials and therefore not to buy art supplies, which would of course be coming from the Israeli art supply industry, which they wanted to boycott. This is a painting by Layla Attar, and she was a very celebrated young painter in Iraq at the time when Saddam Hussein was the dictator of that country, and in one of Bill Clinton's bombings of Iraq in the 1990s, she was killed. And this is Metro by Magdi al-Shafi. Magdi is seen as the father of the Arab language graphic novel. He produced a book called Metro, which is a crime novel set in Cairo, which is about two young men who, even though they have very good educations and they're computer programmers, can't seem to make any money or pay their debts because the whole society around them is so corrupt, and they finally decide to rob a bank. And even though it is a crime novel and not a political novel, the fact that it showed so much of the corruption of Egyptian society at the time meant that the Mubarak government banned the book, and it was not allowed to be published, and Magdi was arrested for one day, and the book was pulled off the stores. And I don't know if it's yet available in Arabic. It's available in French, English, and Italian, and German, but I'm not sure if it's being published in Egypt now. Magdi was also arrested during the period that the Muslim Brotherhood was in power, and we ran a campaign to get him out of jail. And Magdi's joke now is that Mubarak arrested Magdi, Mubarak is gone, Morsi arrested Magdi, and Morsi is gone, so you see the new government knows that they shouldn't arrest Magdi. And this is Ahmed Nadi, who was very involved with the Arab Spring, and this is a photograph of him sitting in the occupation of Tahrir Square and drawing his most standard character, which is this dog that represents the police force, the much hated Egyptian police force. And this is one of his cartoons where he's showing every part of Egyptian society is trying to tell the youth of the revolution what they should do. And so he satirizes the Muslim Brotherhood, the Pope, the military, the intellectuals. They're all trying to tell the youth what to do. And this is a piece he did after Morsi had come to power, and he took, this was a cover for a magazine, and he took all of the leaders of every faction of Egyptian politics at that time and showed each of them naked, and each of them has a glass of blood. And Morsi is saying, it's okay, the blood is halal. And this magazine was pulled off the stands immediately for having this cover. And this is Ganzir, who was a muralist and a poster artist during the Egyptian Revolution. He said that he painted this, and he spent most of the time painting the tank, and the military would drive by and they'd say, oh, it's good, it's talking about how great we are. And then, of course, when they didn't see, he painted the person with the bicycle and the little bear in front of it.
I don't think he painted the bear. Somebody else paints the bear.
Okay. Okay, so he didn't paint the bear. All right.
No, the bear is somebody else's tag.
Okay. And he also painted these martyr paintings which were for young men killed during the uprising. And I think, Tamara, when you were there, you said that these martyr paintings were all over Cairo for a while.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. And he also did some social commentary on issues of religion and was clearly disliked by certain religious factions. But in spite of that, when the Muslim Brotherhood was overthrown and the military came in, they released a news report saying that Ganzir was being financed by the Muslim Brotherhood, and at that point Ganzir decided to move to the United States for a while. He's living in LA right now. And this is Mazen Karbaj, who's Lebanese, and he's both a cartoonist and an experimental jazz musician. And his first album was recorded on the roof of his building while the bombs were dropping on Beirut. So you hear the bombs dropping in the background and hear him playing music over it. And then he did illustrations that went to it. This is a comic strip he did, and this is a piece about the veil. So this is his protest against the veil, which is a very poetic image where, you know, women's eyes are just appearing above the water. And this is Ali Ferzat, who is a political cartoonist in Syria. And even though his cartoons were critical of the Assad regime, Assad actually for a while liked his cartoons because he thought they were funny. He thought Ali Ferzat was talented, and he was tolerated. He was allowed to do his cartoons until one day he did this cartoon, which shows Assad trying to hitch a ride with Gaddafi, who's leaving town. And Assad did not like that cartoon, and Ali Ferzat was beaten up by a bunch of Assad supporters, and then he drew this cartoon after having been beaten up. So that being the tradition that Mohammad Sabaaneh is coming from, I guess it shouldn't be that surprising that he spent 6 months in an Israeli prison. And this is a drawing he did there. And I first became aware of Sabaaneh when he was in prison, and we were putting out a petition to support Mohammad Sabaaneh and hopefully get him out of prison. But I should stress that, you know, there's more to Mohammad Sabaaneh than that. This is the second visit I know Mohammad has had to New York, and the first time we went to the Modern, and this time we went to the Whitney, and Mohammad is very interested in the influences of art from all over the world. You can see a cartoon of his here that's very influenced by Picasso's Guernica. And so with that, I am going to turn this over to Mohammad Sabaaneh.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you all for coming today and to join us this night. First of all, I don't know if you know something about Arab and Muslim tradition that they should start their speech or any action they do by in the name of God or in the name of Allah. That's mean Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But while more than 1,500 Palestinian prisoners now on hunger strike in Israeli prison, I should start by, in the name of 1,500 Palestinian prisoners. They are on hunger strike in Israeli prison. Marwan Barghouthi, the leader of the hunger strike, Karim Younis, the oldest Palestinian prisoner in Israeli jail, and Shadi Farrah, the youngest prisoner all around the world. His age is 13 years old now. And that's why I should start with them. First, I'm Mohammad Sabaaneh, Palestinian cartoonist, was born in Kuwait in 1979. Actually, my parents introduced Palestine to me badly because they always update me by the number of the people was killing and detained in Palestine in that time, in the first Intifada. That's why I was wondering at that time, why I should like country. All what I know about it, that's the people facing the death and detained in it. But few years later, when the first Gulf War took over and all the Palestinians left Kuwait, I was wondering also at that time why I should remember national theme for the country I'm leaving today. That's the simple thing. Explain to me what's the relation between the people and their homeland, and that's why we should like our homeland. That was the picture of the first competition I participated in Kuwait, and that was the first time I know the name of my country, that it was Palestine. This picture from Kuwaiti newspaper. When we left Kuwait, I living in Jordan for more than 7 years. I finished my higher education in Jordan. Then I go to Palestine to start my bachelor degree in Al-Najah University. And in that time, the political situation was very quiet because of Oslo agreement in that time. And there's not political events in that time or clashes between Palestinian and Israeli. We just was waiting what will happen with the peace process. And one day when I was in Al-Najah University closed its door, and they announced that all of the students will go toward the Israeli checkpoint because we heard that Sharon entered to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and all of the students of Al-Najah University, and I was one of them, moved to the Israeli checkpoint to express their refuse for Sharon visit. And what I remember at that time, when we arrived to the checkpoint, the Israeli bullet separated us, all the students, and my friend Zakaria and I hidden behind olive tree because of the Israeli bullets in that day. My friend Zakaria started joking with me because I wasn't born in Kuwait, and I was not used to face Israeli soldier and see these clashes. Suddenly one of the students showed Harley that I've been injured by the bullets. My friend Zakaria ran toward him, handled him, and I tried to help him under the targeting of the Israeli soldier, and we dropped him into the ambulance. And in that time, I decided that I should go home because of the danger in that area. And while I was in the taxi, I heard the news that day that the Palestinians lost 3 Palestinian, 3 students from Al-Najah University, and one of them was my friend Zakaria.
Oh my goodness.
I started do my daily cartoon just to participate in my people resistant against the Israeli soldier and Israeli government. And I used to draw portraits for the Palestinian martyrs. Actually, it was like a work. When anyone killed by Israeli soldier, his family came to me, used to ask me to draw him big portrait, just to hold his portrait in funeral. One day, one of the Palestinian martyrs, his family came to me and asked me to draw him big portrait. And while I was working in his portrait, his small brother asked me, could you draw me a portrait when Israeli soldier killed me? And his question shocked me at that time. 2 weeks later, his family called me and told me that also the small kids was killed by Israeli soldier while he was trying to revenge for his brother. And by same brushes, by same color, and at the same place, in my home, I draw two brothers was killed by same killer. That's why that was the last portrait I did for Palestinian murders. And I started just making my daily cartoon talking about what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in the second Intifada. I graduated from the Najah University, started work with Arab American University as a graphic designer. Then one day I was in Jordan for some meeting and some working for my university. While I was coming back from Jordan with one of my colleagues in the university, and actually I invited him to eat breakfast when we arrived to Palestine. I subjected to a long interrogation by Israeli soldier. They asked me about everything, about my trip, my friend, why I been in Jordan, what I'm doing there, and what is my work. Then the Israeli soldier told me that you are in detention. And in that moment, actually, I feel that I became one of the character of my cartoon, because I used to draw about the Palestinian prisoner. I draw a lot of cartoon about them. And I feel that Mohammad Sabaaneh became character of his cartoon. This one of the cartoon one French cartoonist draw as a solidarity with me. They put me in the small cell in Al-Jalmi detention center. It's North Palestine, for more than 2 weeks in isolation as a way to torture the Palestinian prisoner. They put me alone for more than 2 weeks alone in this cell, and it was horrible cell because it's so small with rough wall, dim light, and heavy door. You can't even hear what's happening outside, as a way to torture and the Palestinian prisoner. But I pretend like I'm journalist. I'm there just to reporting to the people outside what's happening in Israeli jail. And when the interrogation started with me, and interrogator asked me about everything, about my work, my cartoon, my friend, my brother. Even my brother was in jail. I tried to steal small paper from the interrogator, and that was the small paper. And in the second section of the interrogation session, I tried to, also I stolen a small pencil from the interrogator and started to jot down just what I will do when I go outside the jail. Because of the isolation and this loneliness inside the cell, I started to think that when I release, I will draw a lot of cartoon about the Palestinian prisoner, about the condition inside the prison, about all of the issues of the Palestinian prisoner, and start to jot down all of this idea on this small paper. This paper was all of what I have inside the prison. It was big victory for me over the Israeli government. That's what I thought, just because I want to support myself inside the jail. And when they moved me to the prison, they took me from the detention center, which the situation was very horrible, to the prison. I started sketching a lot of sketch for the cartoon, not just finished cartoons about the prisoner. Also, I draw a lot of cartoons about and sketching inside the prison. And most of my cartoon, I got some detail just to let the administration of the prison to let this to allow to my sketches go out the prison, because if they know that I'm sketching or do something about the prison or against Israel, they will not let me talk all of my sketching outside. You will see this, the Syrian flag. But when I go outside and did my cartoon, I converted to Palestine flag. And also, it could be for Syrian people. And when they released me from the prison, I did a big exhibition about the Palestinian prisoner, and I traveled around the world with this exhibition in United Kingdom and Spain, and I talked all of my cartoon about the Palestinian prisoner just to convey their message and their condition to the outside people. Actually, when I traveled around the world, and now I will convert to talk about the artistic issues, I asked and I met a lot of cartoonists around the world, Matt Walker, Cal Keegan, Anarchness from and Seth, actually, but I don't have a picture with him in 2015. They provoke a question to me that if what I do and what I did as a cartoon is a good, or I should do something new. I should try something new, not just the cartoon for the newspaper, also new artwork, and that's what will you see in my book. When I came back, started to do my sketches, just to figure out what I need exactly. I did a lot of sketches to create something new. Then the first sketch was for the book. Then, as what my friend Seth said, I traveled to Spain and I saw the Guernica. I tried to do something close to this school, but in cartoon, not just for art. That was my Guernica. I converted to talk about the Palestine with a lot of elements related to Palestine. Same thing, but let's talk about Palestine. And during the war, during attacking Gaza in 2014, I thought that I could do something about the war in Gaza. I got the white paper in front of me and started sketching until I did this cartoon, and that's what was the first full cartoon for my book. Another cartoon from my sketching, and here I had a problem with the character that you will find. I have two kind of character. It's look like artistic issues, but here I think it's different. But I convert also my character when I saw the images for the people in Gaza, how they are scaling, how their faces are ugly because of the effects of oppressor on them. I convert also the oppressed people to new character also. They are without eyes, without mouth, maybe with ugly faces because of the effects of the oppressor on them. And then, actually, I came to Spain. I talked with a lot of people. One of them was Abdin. He encouraged me to print book. Cal Keegan, also from The Economist, he's a cartoonist, encouraged me to print the book. I started work on my book, and you will find in the first chapter in my book the long cartoon talking about the Palestinian history. Chapter 2, it will find the chapter talk about a lot of the details in our Palestinian issue, sometimes with another perspective. Most of the cartoonists in Palestine and around the world care about the Palestinian prisoner, but no one care about their family and the people they are missing them. That's why I did a lot of cartoon about their family, not just about the Palestinian prisoner. About the people, okay, I should draw something about the martyrs, the people who died for Palestine, but also we should care about their family. Like this cartoon. In another way, a lot of people say that there is some exaggeration in my cartoon. You can see this photo for the Palestinian city and Israeli city. And when you see my cartoon, you will see it's the same. There's no different. I think I make it more simple than the real life. And here is when we're talking about the checkpoints. this checkpoint, I passed from it 1 week after I came to the United States. You can see the number of the cars here. More cars, and here is the checkpoint in my book. And also, sometime in my book, I used to talk about the jailer. Most of people think that just the people in jail think about the time, but also the jailer, he is surrounded by the time, but surrounded by the prison who he built, because he is waiting and keeping eyes on the prisoner. When I was in the prison, I just looking to the jailer. He just looking to the time he want to go back home, and he just want to leave the prison. He looked like us with a different perspective, maybe. Another cartoon about the wall. Even the occupation is surrounded by his wall. And in third chapter, I talk about everything, what's happening around the world and what's happening in Palestine. I made some, like, put the issues from all around the world and from Palestine and compared with them. Some issue happened with the Palestinian, like the refugees issues. Now it's happening with the Syrian refugees. Some issues was happening around the world, but now it's still happening in Palestine, like occupation. Palestine, it's a part from the occupation, it's going around all the world, and even here in Manhattan. Charlie Hebdo. There is a lot of details of what's happening around the world, not just in Palestine, and here is you can find Gaza and what's happening there. Another one, it's talk about discrimination. Discrimination because of the religion, the color, the gender, the language, and here is the Palestinian also. You can't find them. The discrimination, what's happening now in Palestine, still this checkpoint between two Palestinian cities, this routes for Palestinian, the soldier will check your car, will ask you about your identity and your paper, and here is for Israeli. The fourth chapter in my book, it's called the silent comics, and when you look at all of the comics in this chapter, it will look like this pattern, and this design for this pattern came from these two art pieces. I did it inside the prison, and the colorful one too, I did it outside the prison, and I want to make them like you are looking from the windows, between the bars of the windows of the prison, what's happening outside. And this is also was my comics without text, and you will find some of them talking about the Syrian refugees, about what's happening around the world, not just Palestinian, because I think the humanity, it's not just something related to Palestinian. If you want to talk about the political issue, even around the world, we have a lot of things, and some of these stories are, happened around me. Like this story, when I was at checkpoint, for example, the soldier asked small kids, "What is your identity?" That's why he cut the leaf of some wild planet and gave it to the soldier and passed away from the checkpoint. This story happened with me. I did not invented it. The fifth chapter, also about the Palestinian prisoner, my cartoon from the prison. This cartoon, I did it inside the prison and finished it inside the prison, but without the details as indicator that it is a prison, just to ask the administration of the prison to allow this cartoon go out of the prison. Actually, the life under occupation, to be artist under occupation is not something easy. 2 months ago, I was in Jordan also, and when I came back from Jordan, the Israeli soldiers stopped me and searched all of my suitcases. And they found this sketchbook. And they asked me why you are drawing the Israeli soldier. I told him, what are you see around? What put around the Israeli soldier? And that's it.
Questions or what? What kind of comics did you grow up looking at? Were you seeing Western comics in your childhood?
Actually, most of when I was kid, most of the cartoon I saw was for Najil Ali because I was in Kuwait and Najil Ali was working with Al-Qabas newspaper in Kuwait. It's Kuwaiti newspaper, and there is not a lot of comics in Arab world in that time. I think most of it was editorial cartoons from newspaper, and even in Palestine there is not a lot of comics until now. That's why maybe we should work on something new inside Palestine or for outside also.
Okay.
Are there any other young cartoonists that are coming up that don't have any kind of fame or popularity yet?
Actually, because of the condition of publishing the cartoon, there is not a lot of newspaper in Palestine. That means there is no chance to be cartoonist with the salary. A lot of young cartoonists started do the cartoon, then they stop because there is no chance. Even when I started publish my cartoon, I worked with Al-Hayah Al-Jadida, the daily newspaper in Palestine for more than 7 years without revenue, just because I want to do the cartoon. That's why most of them they stopped doing cartoon. But there is some cartoonists inside, young cartoonists inside Palestine, and one of them actually is my friend. His name is Osama Nazzal. 1 month ago, the Israeli soldier also came to his home and destroyed all of his artwork.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just a question about, similar to what you're talking about, circulation of comics historically in Palestine, comics from outside coming in, and sort of what's the latest with comics coming in and out of Palestine. And then also, the second question maybe, is there a strategy of getting comics into schools or having young people, have access to comic books and your comics and books?
Actually, even when I started do a cartoon, I was student in Najah University, and we don't have major in our universities about comics or political cartoon or something like that, even animation, all of this kind of art. We don't have any major in our university about this thing. And this is something hard to bring this art to Palestine because of this thing. I tried to get like scholarship to study comics or animation or something like that, but I could not find any chance for that because all of the scholarships is for something like medical program that they think that the people care about more than comics. But now we try to do small workshop with kids, and I did a lot of workshop for student, for the university student, about comics and cartoons and all of these things. With my colleague in Palestine, we are 3 cartoonists. We try to do something like that because we believe that we need cartoon for Palestine. There is a lot of Palestinian cartoons outside Palestine now, in Jordan, in Europe, in all of these country around Palestine, but inside Palestine, we are just three cartoonists. But we will try to do that maybe by workshop, by awareness the young artists, maybe to try to do something with comics. And now it's easier than my time, because in my time we did not have internet or all of these resources. Now they have internet, they can download any book from internet, they can see foreign comics from outside, and maybe we could do a small library for comics and for the young artists. And there is some, I don't, not responsibility from Palestinian Authority toward the comics and cartoon. Even Najir Ali, until now, I'm demanding to get all of his archive from outside to Palestine and to establish museum for him inside Palestine. That will encourage all of the young artists to do comics, but they don't care because he was criticizing PLO and Palestinian Liberation Organization and Fatah and Abu Ammar. That's why they don't care about his archive.
So what? But in the general population, is there any feelings about comics? Like in America, there was a strong prejudice against this as a form. I mean, there was a high art and a low art, and there were writers and.
The people care about the comics and cartoon seasonally. And when something happened in Palestine, they care about the cartoon. Like today, I had like artwork project in Ramallah. While I'm there, I launched the project in Ramallah about the Palestinian prisoner. When you publish anything in social media, you will find all the people care about your artwork now because of what's happening inside the prison. But when nothing happened around the country, no one cared about the art. They want you to just talk about their daily life, like the prices of the goods, something like that. They don't care about the politics issue now in Palestine, even the Palestinian, because the economic system in Palestine make the people like slave for their salary, loans. And it's international system actually, and that's what's happening now inside Palestine. That's why most of the people now do not care about politics, and any comics talk about politics. They care about something, talk about their life.
That's a different kind of comic, right?
Yeah, we can do it. And sometimes we should do something relate to the people's life. Maybe because even their daily life, there's some political background in it. But we should touch the direct thing for the people, not to talk about politics, just to explain for them why everything is very expensive or very hard to them.
And do you have much connection with the whole Israeli comic scene?
Actually, I have no connection with Israeli. For me, it's part of my boycott for Israel. I can't make a connection with the Israeli cartoonist while he is in Israel, and he is. I'm monitoring all of the Israeli cartoonists. I try to translate all of their cartoons. There is no one criticized his government because his government killed the Palestinian. Why I should make this connection with him? Can I drink water?
Yeah. No, I hear that there's a complete apolitical world now in Israeli society. People just don't care about what's going on outside of their own, making a living.
They criticize the government about maybe the economics, something like that, corruption in their governments, but they totally support Israeli government when they face the Palestinians. They don't criticize it.
Yeah.
That's not quite true. I mean, I don't think we should. You have an expertise, but Israel has a lot of different elements there's a peace movement. I mean, I don't think we should get into that area. You know, I have a question. Before you mentioned revenue, that when you were earlier, it was difficult for you to earn a living. Are you earning a living as a cartoonist?
Until now, no.
I see.
I'm employee in university called Arab American University in Palestine, and my work as a cartoonist now I earn money because of the cartoon inside Palestine, but even the money it's not enough. That's why I'm working in another places in Palestine and sometimes outside Palestine.
I see. And so I was just trying to understand what it is you're, if I may ask, in terms of the work that you do as a cartoonist and how you're sort of doing your work on a day-to-day basis, and how it's being circulated. I mean, is the internet, because you mentioned it's difficult, I mean, is it through the press or is it paper press or through the internet? How are you communicating?
I published I'm publishing my artwork in daily newspaper in Palestine,
I
but
see.
then I could publish it in social media because you know the social media it's more effective than the printed newspaper these days.
Right.
And most of the new generation, all of them care about social media more than the printed newspaper.
Right. But the social media, I assume, is there a way to, one doesn't get revenue from the social media?
No, I will
Oh,
not
yeah.
get revenue from social
Right.
media, but when I publish my cartoon in newspaper, then I can publish it in
Right, I
social
see.
media.
Right. And you live in Ramallah?
In
or-
Ramallah, yeah. If you want to visit it, we'll
I would. I was just in Ramallah about a month ago. I would love to see you.
Do you have any, I know there's like a cartooning scene in Egypt now, there's starting to be cartooning scene in Jordan. Do you have any involvement with cartoonists in those countries and the other Arab countries? Do you, for instance, could you get your work published in Talk, or is there any communication back and forth between you and those guys?
even the printed magazine or newspaper, for example, in Jordan, they have just 5 or 6 newspaper, but they have more than 12 cartoonists in Jordan. In Egypt, the same. The number of the newspaper or printed newspaper in all the Arab world less than the number of the cartoonists. That's why I was working in Jordan, for example, with Al-Ghad al-Jadid in Jordan, and then they fired me and took Jordanian cartoonists in United Arab Emirates also. I was working with Al-Ittihad. Then they changed the manager of the newspaper. He bring another cartoonist from his country. The competition between the cartoonists in the Arab world, because of the number of the newspaper, is very strong. That's why maybe we should start think about alternative for publishing our cartoon in newspaper. But now we started establishing newspaper in Jordan called Tomato, and it is for it's monthly newspaper, and a lot of cartoons around the Arab world publishing their work in it. And you are welcome if you want to publish anything there. But it's free. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.